NHL players rack up millions of dollars every night out on the ice rink. Unfortunately, some experienced hockey players have watched their hard-earned careers crumble right before their eyes. From poor financial decisions to players suffering from unfortunate diseases and accidents, these are some NHL players who literally lost everything.
I didn't know if I was going to, play hockey again. It was ultimate low.
Starting off with the former Carolina Hurricane, Ray Whitney. Coming out of Alberta as the 23rd overall draft pick, Ray's 22nd season NHL career was filled with a ton of memories. Winning the Stanley Cup trophy in 2006, Ray made about $45 million throughout his career. Felt like nothing could go wrong for the Canadian native.
We were getting points and, it's still an adjustment, for me individually, so.
Well, that was what we thought until retired hockey player Len Barry happened. The Bear Mountain Golf Resort and Real Estate Program was a multi-million-dollar project, largely funded by 18 current and former NHL players. Ray Whitney's $3 million investment was one of its highest investors for a project Len Barry promised to yield over 10 times returns in a few years. Returns came back, but unfortunately, it landed Ray in huge debt. After $300 million worth of debt, the resort was shut down and sold for scraps, leaving every investor with nothing. Multiple reports have shown that Len Barry converted his colleagues' funds into supporting his wealthy lifestyle and used them to acquire the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2008. Unfortunately for Ray, he lost all his investments, filed for bankruptcy, and worked side jobs coaching youth hockey to cater for his wife, Bridget, and their 3 kids. Damn, that's sad. Just like when the former Blue Jacket center, Michael Pekka, suffered from one of the NHL's greatest scandals. What Michael valued the most was his tight-knit circle of his wife, Kristen, his parents, and his decades-long friendship with his financial advisor, Phil Kenner. After a successful run in the NHL, it was time for the Canadian-born athlete to retire comfortably with his millions. However, what he found in the mailbox was an account statement of bankruptcy. Their financial advisor, Kenner, had convinced Michael to invest in a Mexican golf course, a Ponzi scheme designed to ruin his friend's career earnings. Pekka's retirement plan turned into Kenner's funds for nighttime booze and sponsored a lavish lifestyle which he never deserved. Stab in the back wouldn't go unpunished as Michael took Kenner and his associates to court, where the government sentenced Phil to 17 years in prison with at least $30 million in forfeiture. The saddest thing about betrayal is that it never comes from your enemies, it comes from those you trust the most. Getting betrayed by your friend is bad, but seeing Jack Johnson backstabbed by his parents was absolutely horrifying. The Indiana native was a rock-solid defenseman and also made a great impact in front of goal, recording over 300 points while winning a Stanley Cup trophy with the Colorado. His career took a huge turn after signing his 7-year, $30 million max extension with the Los Angeles Kings in 2014. However, Johnson's only mistake was wielding all his earnings in the name of his parents. Unknown to him, his parents went behind his back and secured high-interest loans and squandered their son's money on homes, cars, and travel. Of over $10 million he earned in his career, Johnson was left with $50,000 worth of assets and millions in debt. Johnson has since cut ties with his parents and liquidated his homes and cars to pay off part of the debt. Johnson is currently playing for the Colorado while he dedicates the rest of his career earnings towards paying off his debts. 3-time Stanley Cup champion Sergei Fedorov also lost everything from trusting the wrong people. Talk about hockey skills and trophies. The former Detroit Red Wings center had it all. The NHL Hall of Famer's incredible touch on the ice was a sight to see, racking up over 1,000 career points and also winning the 1994 Hart Trophy for the best player. In over 10 years in the league, Fedorov had his bank stacked up, earning over $100 million throughout his playing career. However, his downfall came through his financial advisor, Joseph Zada, who introduced him to a Ponzi investment that lost him over $43 million. Despite winning a lawsuit against Joseph a few years later, Fedorov has been unable to receive a dime back on his losses. His debts were so bad that he was forced to sell all of his houses, cars, and assets. He had to return to the KHL to pick up what was left of his sports career. Damn! What's with these NHL players and their connections with Ponzi schemes? They're in Fleury also ruined his NHL career with his own bare hands. Growing up in a family of drug abusers and alcoholics, Fleury soon developed an addiction to substance abuse. A quite dysfunctional kid somehow found his feet in the NHL's ice rink, recording over 1,000 points in 15 NHL seasons, where he'd become a Stanley Cup champion playing for the Calgary Flames. After accruing over $40 million throughout his career, Fleury's dirty habits would end up getting the best of him. Multiple nights spent partying, drinking, and gambling left his wallet empty with little to nothing for a retirement plan. As the saying goes, more money, more problems. Patrick Cote, on the other hand, had the most ridiculous career failures in NHL history. Coming into the league as the 37th overall pick for the Dallas Stars, Patrick's NHL career was an absolute disaster. Despite featuring for 3 teams through 6 seasons, he featured in just 105 career games with just a goal and 2 assists to his name. Instead of helping out his team on the ice, Patrick was busy serving time in jail or parole. His first incident came in 2002 when he was arrested in New York for the possession of 30 pounds of cannabis in his car. Despite making over $2 million in his career, Cote attempted a robbery a decade later on 2 suburban Montreal banks. After pleading guilty to his offenses, the Quebec native was sentenced to years in prison, filed for bankruptcy, and remains on parole for his crimes. Next, we have one of the most tragic career endings of one of the greatest players in NHL history. The Detroit Red Wings defender Vladimir Konstantinov was arguably one of the toughest defenders of his era. But during the 1997 Stanley Cup parade, sadness struck when a limousine carrying Vladimir and his teammate crashed into a tree in Michigan. Of everyone on board, Vladimir suffered the worst fate. A head injury to his left frontal lobe rendered Vladimir in a coma, and he was eventually paralyzed in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. Even though he never played hockey again, Vladimir inspired the Red Wings franchise to make back-to-back Stanley Cup victories the following year and dedicated it to their Russian brother. Wow, that was such an emotional moment. Another emotional moment was the time Mario Lemieux lost his career to cancer. Super Mario, as he's popularly called, was one of the greatest names to have played in the NHL. Despite featuring in just 915 games across 17 NHL seasons, former Penguin racked up 1,700+ points to go along with 2 Stanley Cup trophies, 3-time season MVP, 6-time league's leader with the most points, and the list goes on. However, it was only his health that limited his legendary career from attaining extraordinary status. An early diagnosis of Hodgkin's lymphoma in 1993 had the Hall of Famer out of action for over 2 months and the entirety of the following season receiving chemotherapy treatment. As soon as he recovered, Mario's return was like he never left, adding back-to-back scoring titles and 2 more MVP awards to his trophy cabinet. Unfortunately, the cancer symptoms returned. Consistent back and knee injuries showed that his body was no longer fit for the ice. In 2006, Mario finally retired from the ice, leaving an outstanding mark on the game. As the great Bobby Orr once described him, he is the most talented player I have ever seen. Brian Bickell's career was also at the end of a life-threatening disease. The 3-time Stanley champion entered the league in 2014, but it was not until early 2010 that he found his feet with the Chicago Blackhawks. In the NHL, Brian tallied 66 goals and 70 assists in 395 NHL games, playing a major role in the Blackhawks' 2013 and 2015 Stanley Cup victories. Signing a big money contract extension with the Blackhawks in 2015 felt like a turning point in his career until his body literally failed him. Brian's symptoms of nausea and severe pain in his shoulder and leg were later diagnosed by the doctors as an autoimmune disease that damages the immune system. However, he couldn't make a complete recovery, and the Blackhawks had to trade him to the Carolina Hurricanes to free up cap space. In 2017, Brian was featured in his final career game and moved on to continue battling the disease outside the ice hockey rinks. Brian Bickell will remain in the hearts of the Blackhawks and every hockey fan forever. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more exciting hockey videos. Before you go, check out the other videos we have on our channel. Trust me, you are going to love it.